Alright, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we got a pretty special video today. We got two relatively special cars, 32 four-door sedan and a 28 Model A Roadster pickup. So we're going to be going over what's the difference and which of these cars is better and more fun to drive every day. So let's start over here with the 32 Ford, and we'll show you why these are so special. So the first thing about them that people really like is that these were a one-year only car. This body style was only made in 32. Whereas the Model A was made from 28 to 31. There's a lot more of them out there and they're much more common. Another reason the 32 is so special is because one sec we'll run inside and I'll show you. This car is actually a 4-cylinder, but the 32 Ford was the first car to have a V8. So this is one reason why people like the 32 Ford so much. It was the first Ford ever to have a V8 and the first ever kind of affordable V8 that was put in a regular car. Unfortunately, the four-door outside is not a V8, but this one is. Why don't you tell us a little something about them?
I don't know shit. I'm shy on you.
A lot of help you are. So we'll show you under the hood of this one just to see what it has anyways. And it's pretty special. Pop this open. Slide this up. So under here we have an original 32 4-cylinder, but the big difference is this has an overhead valve conversion. So on a regular 32, the valves are actually in the block, but that is not how this one is. It also has a bit of a hotter cam, and it has a lot more horsepower than the original stock 4-cylinder would have had. But it's a pretty stock car, and it's a lot of fun to drive. So if we go to the interior here, you'll notice one big difference versus the Model A is that the Model A is going to have a lot more gadgets and switches on the steering wheel here. This thing is a lot more simple to drive. The only thing that's not really original is it's got a power switch there on the floor, but other than that, as you can see, the interior is very stock. This car is also a little nicer than the Model A, so it's kind of unfair, but we're getting the basics down. Another big difference when it comes to driving is that in the 32 Ford, they redesigned the transmission completely. The synchros are much better. And as you'll see in the video, it's gonna shift a lot smoother than the Model A will. Just because the synchros are better, it's a more modern transmission, and they upgraded it quite a bit versus this thing. So we're gonna fire this thing up and take it for a drive. One big downside to a 32 is that especially today, these things cost about 2 to 3 times more than the Model A. And essentially, they're a very similar car. I mean, they look very similar. The 32 will drive a little bit better than the Model A, but it'll cost you 2 to 3 times more. So you gotta decide how you wanna spend your money. But another thing is that the 32 might hold its value better than the Model A will. So let's close this thing up. We'll take a look at the Model A, and then we'll take them for a drive. So the Model A with the Model T was one of the very first mass-produced cars that was cheap. There was a lot of them, and they were extremely reliable. And they were some of the first cars made on the assembly line by Ford. So let's take a closer look at this one. So this is a 28 Roadster pickup Model A, original 4-cylinder. And immediately when we get in this thing, we're gonna notice the driving experience is much more in-depth compared to the 32 Ford. So in the 32 Ford, you just start the car, maybe use the choke a little bit, and then you're off. But this is just a little bit different. So let's climb in here and check it out. So the first big difference you'll see is you got your lights, just like a 32 horn. Over here, this adjusts your gas pedal. So you pull it down, it's like a cruise control almost for an old car. Pull it down and the pedal goes down, pull it up, hard to focus, and it releases. Then over here on this side, you got your timing. So when you're idling, your timing will be all the way up and it'll run smooth. And as you speed up, you advance the timing to help it go faster. So retarding the timing is all the way up, advanced all the way down. When you start the car, it'll be all the way up. Another big difference from a Model A to 32 is you'll see right here, this knob, when you're parked, you want it turned this way, and that shuts off your fuel. And you'll see there's actually a little drip on the floor there. But that's a big difference. You got to remember every time when you turn off every time when you park the car, you want to turn your fuel off and leave it like that. So the driving experience is a little more in-depth in one of these. Let's take a quick look under the hood here. So it's pretty basic in here. This one has the original 4-cylinder. And one thing I will say about this car is that every morning, I don't even need the choke. It just starts up and drives. And that's something about these, is that they're extremely reliable. They're cheap. There's millions of them out there. There's parts. They're easy to find. So that's one big advantage over the 32, where you'll be paying twice as much for everything that you need for it. But it's a very basic pickup. Stock 4-cylinder. You got your starter, generator, fan. This runs off the original 6-volt battery. That's been converted to a 12-volt. But other than that, they're pretty similar cars. So let's hop in them, take them for a drive, and see which one we like more. All right, so let's start this thing up. So you're just gonna turn on. Most won't have a power switch, so it'll just be flip the key on, pump it once or twice, pull the starter lever, make sure you're in neutral, pull the starter lever, and she's running. So let's take her down the road. So one thing versus the Model A is this thing, and if you have a 32 in good condition, they shift smooth like butter. And another thing, it's kind of unfair that we're driving a 4-door sedan versus the Roadster pickup, but just in general, the 32s are a little quieter inside and a little nicer to drive. So it's kind of unfair to compare this straight up to the original Model A, because this thing does have the overhead valve conversion, which really helps. It makes more horsepower, but even so, the 32 is probably going to be a little smoother than the Model A will, even with the stock 4-cylinder. And you want the V8 in a 32 because it's the first year of V8s, and that's the one you want. So let's get onto the highway here and see how she drives. So, merging onto the highway in one of these cars. Now with this, it's no problem with the overhead valves, bigger cam and all that. But even with the stock V8 and the 32, it's going to be far easier to get onto the highway than in a Model A. I mean, these things will just get right up to speed, and you can travel with regular traffic these days. The Model A, not so much. You're topped out at about 50 miles an hour in a Model A. But one of these has no trouble keeping up with traffic, and especially this one with the built 4-cylinder. So we're just kind of cruising along here, and it's just doing it effortlessly. I mean, highway speeds around town, whatever you need, this thing will keep up, and the V8s will keep up just fine. Unlike when we get in the Model A, you'll see you kind of got to struggle just to keep it going regular highway speeds. Another thing that's pretty nice in one of these is that I'm not adjusting the timing or any of that, or there's also an air-fuel mixture down here in a Model A. I don't have to mess with any of that. Just get in, start the car, and drive it just like you would a normal car, basically. And you look cool going down the road. That's the biggest advantage of both of these. So let's just go ahead and cruise this thing around a little bit, and then we'll head back and take the Model A for a spin. Shifts in this thing. I mean, clutch just pops right into gear. And the Model A, once you kind of get going and get it warmed up, it does that fine, but you'll see. It's more involved, and you got to double clutch it. This thing, you don't really even have to double clutch. So it's pretty good. It cruises right along. So anyways, enjoy the rest of this, and then we'll drive the Model A. back, and there's a ride in the 32 for you. Let's take this thing out for a ride before it starts getting too dark here. Just close her up. Pop in here. Now, here's the thing versus the 32. 32, you hop in, start it up and go. This thing, got to make sure our timing's good. Make sure our fuel is on. Turn our key, make sure we're in neutral, and start the thing. So we're gonna get rolling here. And as we kind of get going, we got to adjust our timing, which is a lot more involved than in the 32. So we're kind of rolling. We're going to turn that down, and you can hear the engine change as the timing advances and we start to get going a little better. And then on the shifts, unlike the 32, you got to pop it down, let up, double clutch, and stick it in gear to try and keep it from grinding. And also a Model A is just going to be a lot more rattly than a 32 is. But it's still fun to drive, and it's cheap too. They're cheap fun, which is one of the best parts. So let's go ahead and try and get onto the highway here. So in the 32, we're getting up to highway speeds easily and not holding up traffic. And this thing, if we get it up to 50 miles an hour going downhill, we'll be lucky. But it's a lot of fun. And it feels like you're going faster than you are, especially in this with the open top and everything. So if you're looking for something you might want to take on longer trips or, drive a ways to a car show, you're probably better off with the 32, especially with the V8. That thing will keep up on the highway. But if you just want to go around town, putt around to the grocery store or whatever, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, the Model A is your choice because it gets around town just fine. You don't need to go much faster than 50, and it might take you a long time if you want to take it to a show or something, but it will make it, and they will start up every single time on the first try, especially this one, and that's one thing I love about this car. So we're going to do a little acceleration test here. We're foot to the floor. Let's see what she'll get up to. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. We're getting there. All right, that's about it. So she'll top out at about 50, 51 miles an hour going on a flat plane, which isn't bad. It's enough to keep up with traffic, but I mean, you're not really going on the freeway or anything like that in one of these. But they sure feel fast, especially if you took the top off this thing. It's a blast to drive one of these. Alright, we're just gonna let you guys enjoy the ride back to the shop, and then we'll do a final comparison. Alright, so final comparison, which one of these should you buy? Well, you shouldn't waste your money on either, and let me show you what you should buy. So this here is what you should buy, because this is what a man would drive. And if you don't like that, cry about it. Nope, seriously cry. I'll sit here and wait. Okay, but here's the real answer. If you're crazy enough to buy one of these old contraptions, and you want something that you can take on road trips, take to car shows that are a little farther away, you're better off with a 32, especially the V8. But if you want something cheap that you can just putt around town in and go have some fun, and I mean, they are just about the simplest thing on earth to work on, you're better off with a Model A. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, go ahead and like and subscribe. I think the button is down in the bottom right corner, and if it's in another corner, still hit that subscribe button. and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.